So this is called Lifting Vegan Logic versus Extreme Vegan.
Cole and a couple others were like, "So are you welfarist or what's the deal, man?" No, I'm not. And so I asked, "Are you an
Oh,
abolitionist?" Yes, I am. And then he starts talking about like, yeah, I said, well, picking up a feather and using it's not really abolitionist. And it's not something that I want to be a cheerleader for vegans. Like I want to like be there for all vegans, and maybe we could talk about nuances and whatnot, what the difference is between a reformist and an abolitionist. And I mean, I made quite clear that I'm an abolitionist. I want to stop all use of all animals. I don't think that there is a circumstance under which that would be permissible to use animals other than, outside of a survival situation.
Yeah, sorry, I was gonna say, well, if you're against all like exploitation or use of animals, and there's going to be an instance where you find it to be permissible, then you can't really say that you're against all uses of animal. It's the first thing I want to say.
yeah, that, and also it's interesting because I believe the framing of this is that, like, they have more of an abolitionist position than I do because of this feather thing and egg thing. But I'm not even of the belief that like need necessarily justifies killing an animal. So it seems like he is, because he said like in a survival situation, it's justified to use an animal to survive.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
not even convinced of that.
yeah. So if we're gonna, I think this guy has good intentions. I mean, for what I'm seeing, but if we're gonna do the whole like who's more vegan thing, which I don't think that's what he's doing, but I'm just saying, like, I made videos on this and how I think vegans just say that a lot of the time, like, oh, survivor situations are fine, we can kill animals, but like I don't think that's totally clear. I mean, there's people that could benefit from killing a pig for their valve or something to survive, and we wouldn't accept that in a human scenario. Why would we accept it in a pig scenario? Oh, can I just go kill a human because I need their valve to live? If not, then why is it okay in the human? So
Yeah,
I just wanted to point that out, but we can keep going.
yeah. It's like
You might be
another
able
way
to.
of framing it. Wait, before you go, another way
Yeah,
of
yeah.
framing it's like, why would it's like infringing on the rights of someone else that like has nothing to do with them. Like they didn't put you in that situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like they also have like a will to live, a subjective experience. So it's like, why do you automatically get to kill them to preserve your own life? And
Yeah.
presumably, like that's not gonna, satiate you forever. You're gonna have to continuously do that,
Mm-hmm.
right? In these survival settings. So what makes it okay for you to kill like an X number of animals just to sustain yourself?
Right.
To excuse certain moral actions under which that would be permissible to use animals other than, outside of a
I
survival
don't know if this is a call between him and someone. I'm just confused, but we'll try to gain what's going on here as we keep watching.
situation. You might be able to excuse certain moral actions, immoral actions by certain circumstances, but picking up a feather in the forest, I don't really see it as one. Anyway, not that this has to be a big deal, but then he's like, "Oh well, yeah, I guess I'm gonna protest the birds. Then I'm gonna go protest the birds that use hair, the cat fur from my cat. I comb my cat and I throw the cat fur in the garden, and the birds use it for their nest. So I'm gonna protest the nest."
Okay. Okay. Yeah. There was a day when I was getting bombarded with vegans that were upset with me for this like feather take.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna be honest. For me, it's like it is hard to take seriously. And I think I was at a point where I was in a bit of like a troll mode. So if this guy feels like I was being rude or anything like that, I will apologize like sincerely. I just remember that day I was like back to back just like messaging with like, and some people were being dickheads, some people were being nice, and maybe it got like lost between the messages, like the tonality of each person.
Mm-hmm.
But I vaguely remember this because there was somebody that messaged me a joke saying he was on my side. They were like, oh, like the birds use my cat's fur for a nest. I'm gonna go protest them. And I thought it was so funny. So then I started like saying it to these people that were bombarding me. So, but if he took offense, like I apologize for that. But yeah, I'm just
But
laughing because it's
but to be fair, it's supposed to like elicit like the sort of like the ridiculousness of this sort of position, right?
mhm.
Like I get why you said it,
Yeah.
but like it like ironically went over their heads, right? They thought you were being serious, but like what you're just trying to do is just elicit, hey, like if you're like against like me just using the byproduct of some animal and it doesn't care about its byproduct, then like, should we also extend this to animals, right? Because we typically do that, right? Should
Right.
we extend these rights to animals? Should we extend this moral consideration? So it's like,
Yeah.
why don't we why aren't we against animals that do the same thing? You know, so
Right. Right. Yeah, and I think we'll keep watching, obviously, but I think a lot of the confusion too is that they thought that using a feather that's on the floor is using the animal, when that's not how I see it at all. And I think you agree. Like, if somebody, let's say they find a dog in a shelter that needs a home and stuff, and you choose to adopt this dog, and you're just, you're sacrificing your money and your time to take care of this dog, increase the well-being, whatever. And they just, they take a shit outside, and the shit's just there, and like you go, oh, I'm gonna use that shit for fertilizer or whatever you want to use it for. It's like, just from my perspective, it's like you're using the feces. You didn't adopt the dog so that you can use their feces for fertilizer. You adopted them so you can take care of them and make them feel good and whatever. And there's a sort of byproduct of their existence where it's just like, hey, I'm just gonna use this. So I don't know. That to me isn't like immoral. Same thing with the feather on the sidewalk. So that's my view there. But I don't know. We'll see where this goes. I just have to say again, it's funny to see someone, because like so many things happen on the internet where it's just over text. And I remember I was just sending this troll scenario. I was like, oh, like I'm gonna protest the birds in my backyard, and now just seeing someone read it out loud is just kind of funny. Anyway.
Wait, this is what happens when you don't when it's not clear that you're trolling with people.
That's just the same thing as a carny saying, like, what are you going to go tell the lion not to eat? Are you going to go tell the lion to go vegan? You're going to go tell the shark to go vegan? And it's like,
I mean, we've talked about predators and how, like, if we could prevent them from eating animals alive, that's probably a good thing. So I don't know why.
Yeah, I mean, like,
even...
obviously you wouldn't tell them, right? But you would probably be against it, right? That's the sentiment.
Like, at the very least, you could say you have a moral issue with lions eating alive gazelles, and by extension with this whole feather thing, you have a problem. See, I can't even say without laughing. You have a problem with birds grabbing cat fur from or dog fur from your backyard and using it for a nest. Like maybe it's not an obligation to stop that, but it's morally permissible to stop it and intervene. They're about to grab the fur and you like shoo them away or something. Yeah. Noble.
Dude, I thought you have logic in your name, man. Like, we're not birds. We're not going to protest the birds using cat fur to make their nests, because we're not birds, and birds don't speak our language. Same reason we don't go to the sharks and ask them to stop eating seals or whatever the hell they eat, large fish.
Well, hey, let's just be clear. Maybe when I said protest, I meant like we prevent them from doing it.
Yeah, because he's thinking protest like you got like fucking like picket signs and just like you're just
yelling at the birds.
You're like on the beach. You're just like, stop eating seals.
Right.
And the sharks are like, yo, leave me alone, bro.
Yeah, I hope he didn't sincerely think that I thought we could speak to birds in English.
That's literally what it's coming off as.
I hope not.
It's just it's annoying, and it really bummed me out because I said, I really expected more. I guess like maybe that's all. I'm just bummed by it. I don't want to bash anybody or whatever. I'd like to be the cheerleader of all vegans, but
See, this is where I feel a little bad, because usually I'm mocking and trolling carnists, and then it's very rare that I do it to vegans. And like I said earlier, there in that day, I was getting bombarded, and we all get emotional and shit, and I was just like coping with the frustration of vegans getting mad at me for saying it's okay to pick up a feather on the floor, people accusing me of not being vegan or claiming I'm a welfarist because I'm cool with the feather thing on the sidewalk. Like, these things are irritating. People were saying it, and one of the things that I do to cope with this kind of shit is troll, and maybe I gave you some of that troll energy. So I'll say I'm sorry that you felt bummed out and all this. And yeah, I said sorry earlier. I could say sorry again. But yeah, that's the context of the whole situation and what was going on when
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, I guess I can speak on your behalf and say that like, look, I don't know what this guy's name is, um, vegan with Sky or whatever, but like, I'm sure you could just clarify some of these responses or positions that you have by just, you guys can like maybe like set up something where you can have like a formal interview or something so that like, you can actually get like, Danny's appropriate responses to some of these sort of allegations, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've
Um,
told you before, I'm hesitant to to bring this topic to the spotlight. Doing it on
yeah,
a stream is like fine, like well, this is like a little stream, not everyone's going to see it. But
yeah.
I hesitate to get vegans to even be made aware of the idea of objecting to like feathers on the sidewalk. Even if I can just demonstrate this silliness. There's vegans that are going to fall for it, and I don't want people to have like a sort of like a situation to occur in front of them where they're more likely to adopt that position. I think it makes us like what Hunter said in the chat just makes us look kind of crazy. And in my opinion, it misses the point of what we're really objecting to, which is the exploitation and murder and suffering, all these things
Yeah,
of
no,
like
for sure.
sentient beings that are living.
It could be something that could be clarified. It's like, you guys are missing the point of like this whole objecting to like feathers thing. It's like we're against the reason why we're against the commodification of animals is for these reasons. This thing doesn't fit that category, so you're tripping. Like,
Yeah,
calm down. You know.
and honestly, like I don't I don't like the vegan infighting thing unless there's like a lot of utility that can come from it. And I think we have enough to like challenge with like meat eaters and advocating for that. So this infighting thing, I try to like not provoke it. And if
Mhm.
vegans are going to have this position where they're against the use of feathers and whatever on the sidewalk, I'm not even going to like make a video and say, you guys have such a silly position or I don't agree with you. I see it as
Mhm.
like, you know what? We fundamentally agree on the same thing that we should stop this whole industry. Let's do that. I don't think we need to spend much energy discussing whether or not like and again to me it's also trivial. Maybe it's because I'm coming from my position and this whole feather on the sidewalk thing is just like insane to me. Not to be
Mhm.
rude, it just is. It's funny. To me it seems like something that's like born out of being on the internet for too long or something. I don't know how to
Just bored, just trying to find something.
yeah, because then and what I'm trying to describe, it hit me in person when I was walking on a walk on a track with my friend, and there was a feather, a singular feather on the floor, and I actually saw like the hypothetical that I made in my head when I was having these arguments, and just being in the real life scenario, I was like, it's just weird that like somebody like I didn't grab the feather or anything, but like me and my friend were talking. He's also ethical vegan, and I was like, isn't it just weird that like if I just went up to this feather and like picked it up and I don't know, like brought it home for art, like there'd be certain vegans that would just like rip me to shreds and be like, you aren't like I don't know. It's just all very like seeing the hypothetical thing in person. It almost like further clarified how insane I think the position is to be against grabbing a feather on the sidewalk. But yeah,
Mhm. I can see that. I see what you're saying.
yeah.
He just
Yeah.
doesn't want to. He just like makes fun of people who want to stick up for animals. Like, I mean, to me,
Okay, dude.
No, it's
It's not that I want to make fun of people that want to stick up for animals. In my mind, like you're sticking up for like the feather. That's what I'm seeing when and I don't know whether I want to make fun of you. I already kind of explained earlier. It's just a
I mean,
thing, you know.
it's like it's not. I don't blame you, Danny, entirely because it's hard to take people seriously when this is their contentions. So like, I'd be sitting there. Really, is this what you have an issue with? Like, are you fucking with me right now? There's no way. And
Yeah,
then I
there were
would.
some people that I asked if they were trolling because they would actually have the position. But like I said earlier, like I don't want to bag on people too hard for it. We've already both said like it is silly to us, but as long as we agree
Mhm,
on the fundamentals, like that we should end animal agriculture and animal testing and all these things,
mhm.
we're cool. But when you start calling me like a welfarist and thinking that I'm okay with like like killing animals after we've nicely raised them at 1/4 their lifespan or something like that, because of my position on grabbing a feather on the sidewalk, I don't like, it's hard for me to take you seriously. I don't know if that's what you're doing. I saw some people were doing some similar things because they were calling me welfarist, you know. But yeah, so it's just annoying.
Yeah, that sounds frustrating.
Yeah.
I'm a extremist. I'm aware of that. I'm an abolitionist. I want to have zero use of animals, and I don't think that there's a circumstance under which that you could defend. And I think you'd have be hard stretched, and you could come up with wild hypotheticals. But in your real life, I don't think that there's ever an excuse to use anything from an animal. That's it.
See, I guess we're just seeing it differently. Like he says anything. At first he said using an animal, and then he said anything from an animal, and it's just like, I just like, I don't want to get into it too hard, but it's just, you know, it's just a feather on the sidewalk, dude. You know, that's, it's like you're almost viewing the feather as the animal or something. I don't know, like, you know, that's just how it seems.
Wild hypotheticals, but in your real life, I don't think that there's ever an excuse to use anything from an animal. That's it. I don't think that that's hard.
I don't use the cat fur or any. These are all just scenarios I made up in my head. Or like, I don't use the feather. I don't think it's hard either. I'm just speaking like morally. Like, do I think there's an actual problem with doing it in these specific scenarios? No.
Yeah, I
So
I want him to spell out what is wrong with doing that. Like, what is the sort of like rule that's getting violated, or like what's the like where's this coming from? Where how is this being
mhm.
like what is his pre-existing moral system, and how is he and how does like this purchasing sorry not purchasing picking up like a feather, how is that somehow violating some principle in this ethical system? That's what I want.
Yeah, and I think if you know if like if he's in the chat, he can come on this call so we can get clarity. But I don't. I think he would just say something like what he just kind of said, which is he just thinks that you can't use an animal product in any situation ever in a way that's ethical. And if you have that position and that's your views and it's like this really strong like deontological position,
Mm-hmm.
okay, like that's fine. But just don't don't take my non-objection to picking up a feather on the sidewalk to mean that I'm cool with welfarism or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I
Like,
mean, what if like I used the feather, right? And I found out that like in bird feathers there's like some molecule in it that can like help cure cancer. Like would that be wrong for me to do that? Like presumably it still would be because I'm still like using an animal. But
yeah, he did say just now, like, oh, in your real life world, no, but maybe in a hypothetical, I guess he'd probably consider that part of the hypotheticals where it's okay. I don't know, but
Mhm.
yeah, I don't know.
Well then
Just
he's not well then he's not against all like usages of like animal byproducts then.
yeah,
And if
yeah,
that's the case, then he needs to establish what the delineation is.
yeah. I think he'd say something like probably some well-being threshold, like or disutility reduction threshold being reached, like curing cancer, or as he implied in the beginning, in a survival situation, which you and I don't even necessarily agree with, which is interesting.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
It's like he might think that it's morally permissible to kill somebody kill an animal to survive, but he doesn't think it's ethical for me to just grab a feather on the sidewalk and like make a pen.
See, it's hard for me to make sense of that.
Yeah,
like hearing those two things, it's hard for me to actually think that like that's a serious position. Like,
right. Yeah, I don't know.
Because birds are moral agents. That's exactly. Thank you, Michaela Erickson. Thank you for noticing that they are moral agents.
Oh my god.
Yeah, we could go and protest them for using cat fur. Lions, though, yeah, exactly. It was a lions though argument, and it was rough. And the bird doesn't know it any better. Vegan Han, you were there. You were in the comments. I saw you there. Back me up. It was a little bit upsetting. Vegans, thank you. That makes me happy. This is a channel for vegans. Same as carnivores don't have moral agency. Yeah, obligate carnivores don't have one. And so it's just like it's it's upsetting because it's like, hey, I don't think that that's I was trying to be respectful. I'm like, that's not an abolitionist thing. You're kind of talking like a welfarist. You're talking about like a reformist. Oh, okay. I'm gonna go protest the. And I'm like, okay, then I guess we can wear leather because the cow's already dead. If I'm walking in the street and I see cows dead, I can use their leather, right? Under that logic, lifting vegan logic says it's fine. I can go and eat roadkill. So if somebody runs over an animal, I can run out there and gobble up the roadkill. No, if that's where your if that's where your ethic.
like he says it as if like it's this thing that's just morally like irreprehensible. I'm just like,
Yeah.
sounds like whatever to me. Like I don't get it. Like
Yeah, it's obviously just too
fucking
like
gross. Like I'll grant that, but like
yeah, yeah. Roadkill obviously is just. I mean, I think animal products in general are fucking gross, let alone roadkill. But it's obvious that we're just coming from two different places of like how we're viewing these things. Like in his mind and his emotional state, when he hears about somebody eating roadkill, it's like this big moral, like repugnant, like repulsed feeling. And then for me, it's just like, yeah, that's disgusting. But like, I don't know what's wrong with it. Like, so yeah, it's just coming from two different places, I guess. If it could be established, like someone said in the chat, that the roadkill thing caused some sort of negative consequences, and then there could be a reason, right, to not do it. But like if you held everything constant and it's just like, oh, this roadkill is gonna just rot or not, like I don't see an issue. But it does seem like a very strict like deontology type of just objection to all animal product or animal usage at all. And again, he kind of implied that there might be a hypothetical where it's fine. But yeah.
yeah, it's weird because like there's gonna be like, let's say I really need to sign these documents, but like I don't have a pen on me. I'm like, oh man, I could just make a quill real quick if I just pick up this like hawk feather, right? That just landed like on my house, right? Just do that, dip it in some ink that I have, and then I can sign these. I can sign these divorce papers. Let's go with that, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh,
Right.
cool. All right, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Puts it back outside, right?
Right.
Nope, can't do that. Nope, you're using an animal product, right? You're
Right.
using an animal byproduct. That's wrong. You did something wrong.
Right.
Like
Right.
I don't
Right.
know. I think you saying that just goes against people's intuitions, man. Like it just doesn't seem like that's the fucking thing.
Yeah. From my perspective, it's like I said, we all fundamentally agree with like some things, like animal agriculture should stop. We should stop exploiting and murdering and torturing sentient beings, testing on them, all this stuff, right? And then it seems like this attitude toward like one of the reasons we connect animal products to these things we object to is because often using animal products can put in demand these things that we all object to, right?
Right.
But for us, like people like me, Ruxer, Hunter, and people in the chat, it's like we don't have a reason to believe that this is going to put in demand these issues in the same way that, say, buying milk does or something like that, right? So
Yeah.
we don't have an issue. But so it seems like it's almost like the animal product to you guys is being viewed as the animal as well or something, and like using the feather on the sidewalk is violating this duck's rights that's probably 5 miles down the road right now that doesn't care about any of this, or the bird that flew, or like let's say a bird just took a shit on my shoulder, like can I use that shit for something, like but yeah.
What if I just want to just tasty, yummy, right?
Yeah,
Can I not do that?
maybe you want to eat it. Yeah, this
Yeah.
seems like the bird was trying to give you this shit too, so I don't know. But yeah, I don't, it's interesting, I guess, that some vegans they take it this far, and he even acknowledges he's like an extremist, which I don't even know if I'd call it. Maybe it is extreme. I don't know. It just seems.
I would call it. It reminds me of like some deontologists that I've had conversations with,
Mhm.
where I would ask them questions like, I was like, do you think lying is wrong? Right? They'll say, yeah. And I would say, do you think lying is categorically wrong, like in all cases? And they would say yes. And then I would just go, what if there's like some like axe murderer that's just knocking on doors asking if their sister is home, right?
Mhm.
And if you answer yes, he's gonna go in there, rape her and then kill her. right? So he knocks on your door and says, "Hey, is your sister home?" And she, in fact, is home. What are you telling him? And he's
Right.
like, "Yeah, like the right thing to do is to tell him that
Right.
she's home because you would be lying to him."
Right.
And I was like, "What the fuck?" Like,
Mm-hmm.
so this reminds me of that. Like, it's just like
Yeah.
they're just totally okay with all of the like the implications of the
Mm-hmm.
position. Like they're just like, "Ah, it's whatever." And
Yeah.
so, sorry, there's just one last thing because
Mm-hmm.
when I was in the animal rights club, I had this conversation with somebody, and it seems like what people will do is, and I think this is erroneous that people do this. I think what they'll do is they'll establish like the normative theory first or the ethical thing. They'll attach themselves to it, and then they'll just kind of like accept all of the implications of the theory or the moral principle or something. When in reality, what I think you should do is like you should recognize what they are and then seeing which normative theory, which principles actually align with the thing you already believe in,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think
Yeah.
this is I think this is an example of someone just like, look, I'm a vegan, and vegan entails all of these things, which I don't actually agree with
Mm-hmm.
all of these things, right? This is what it means, and so I have to kind of accept it, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what happens with a lot of individuals.
Yeah. No, I agree. I wish it could be something like, okay, we disagree, but they don't like, I don't know, like condemn vegans for being cool with the feather thing or something. And then it's like, you know what? I take my shit a little far. I just say the way that I feel, but like, yeah, I mean, when
I
you grab
decided
that
to do a
feather,
25
Journey.
you're not. Oh, we have a donation.
Pixar, I think you got to rethink it. That's all. I think you got to rethink that a lot. Oh, Jordan Vegan, thank you so much, baby doll. I appreciate you. I appreciate you, Jordan Vegan USA. I appreciate that so much. I really do. Who we talking about, Sky? I'm calling me Kane. I'm too because I'm late. I'm talking about lifting vegan logic today on his live stream. Was just like I was trying to be respectful and I was just asking, and he says like, "Oh yeah, oh that feathers though." And he starts like taking the piss.
I love when people like whenever they say something that someone else says they disagree with, they always give them like this fucking like
Yeah.
forgive me guys for saying this, but they always give them like a tard voice for some reason. Like, why
Yeah.
do people do that? That's
Yeah, I don't know.
yeah, he said, like, why did he make you sound so fucking stupid?
Right. I can't condemn him for this because I've probably done something similar.
Yeah, I don't like when people do this. I don't know. Like, I'm guilty of it too. Why the fuck do we do that?
Yeah. Feathers out.
And he was all like, "Oh, but eating animals is natural." Like
Right,
why the
right.
fuck do you do that?
Right.
I feel like there's some dishonesty there. I don't know. It's like you're
Yeah.
poisoning the well by like making him sound like unintelligent, right?
Right.
I don't know. Oh, geez.
It's okay. I'm gonna give him the pass because I think I was a little rude to him. So.
But feathers though. And he starts like taking the piss as if feathers. Well, that means that you can't use fossil fuels, is where he said. That means you can't use fossil fuels. Well, actually, I mean, I don't think we should be using fossil fuels. I mean, we have to keep this whole mess going. But I think there might be a statute of limitations. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know if this is the person I talked to about fossil fuels because I talked to a couple people about it. But I said, like, take away all the environmental problems with the fossil fuels. Is there a problem with using them? And I believe the person said yes, which to me was just like, it's just fun. I don't know, dude. Like, I don't.
No, I get it. I don't know what I would say either. Like, look. I do agree that we should probably use an alternative source, right? That's like cleaner and more environmentally friendly.
Of course.
I think we can all agree with that, yeah. But right now, like, I think there's just so much utility in using fossil fuels, and like industrialization has really helped like establish or increase overall well-being and that utility in the world that I don't know, man. I can't I'm uncomfortable with committing.
Well, did you heard what I said though? I said let's assume there was no environmental problems. Do you have a problem with it? And they still do, which was like,
oh
yeah.
Oh, I didn't hear that part.
Yeah, so that's why to me I'm like, we just have fundamentally different values then, dude. Like,
what the fuck? I don't get it.
Like, I told this to one of my friends who's not even vegan, but he's like a smart dude, and he was like, dude, he made a joke. I'm not making these jokes to be mean, but I'm trying to like get you guys to understand just how like weird these positions are to like people like us who don't hold them. But my friend who's non-vegan, but he agrees with everything vegan related. He just hasn't made the switch. He was like, bro, you're exploiting those dinosaurs from 55 million years ago. And he just said that, and like we both started laughing, and I don't know, like it's just like, do you not understand like how weird, how absurd that is? I don't know, dude. Oh, someone asked if this shirt is for real. It is. You can get it at the store, bro. Here it is. Check it out. There's other
I
ones
mean,
too.
like,
Anyway, go ahead.
so if so is the position that like using any animal byproduct is like immoral? Because like, what if like you into some freaky shit in the bedroom? I'm not gonna like get too into it, but like, what if you into some freaky shit in the bedroom and some byproducts are kind of thrown around? What does he think? What does he make
I
of that
think
situation?
they'd say if there's consent there, it's fine.
Oh, cause so consent. Okay.
Yeah, so we didn't get the consent of the Tyrannosaurus Rex from 55 million years ago, so we can't do it.
So okay. So like, I guess if there's a situation where like consent wasn't like given, right? But like say I go in the woods and I just drop a big fat deuce. Someone comes along and just like, ooh, chocolate, very
Right.
nice, right?
Yeah.
Is that still bad? There was
Terrible.
no like, I didn't give them consent, right?
Hmm.
But
Journey,
that's still like a bad thing.
journey.
I mean, mind you, I don't give a fuck
Journey,
about what happens to
journey,
the turd,
journey.
right?
We have another donation. Sorry, but I heard you. I heard you.
I just don't think that you should be advertising as an abolitionist the idea that it's okay to use feathers.
Okay. I know I said we would speed this up, but I have to say something. Presumably, I take abolitionist to mean, you're for the rights of animals to not be enslaved and all of these things.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure why grabbing a feather on the sidewalk is incompatible with the desire to free animals from being enslaved. That's just a simple. That's all I have to say.
Well,
I mean,
it's a good question. Yeah, I want to see how that's going to be answered.
yeah.
Ever. Stop trying to think of reasons why it's okay to use animals. Start trying to defend them. And
No.
I guess
You can think of reasons to do X, Y, and Z. Because, like, if you find out that, like, you have good reasons to do X, Y, and Z, well, there you go. Like, you don't just hold to, like, a dogmatic principle. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you, dude?
Yeah,
like,
I'm gonna be honest. Like, I've heard this before. This seems like a rhetorical point from vegans like this. They're like, stop. They say like, stop trying to think of ways to use animals. You're an oppressor. Kind of. That's like the vibe I'm getting. It's like, dude, I'm not like I'm not trying to find a loophole. I'm not trying to find a way. I don't even like. I don't use feathers or whatever like eggs that are going to be discarded. Like I don't do any of that. I'm not trying to do it. I'm not trying to figure out a way to like to use it. It's like it's just like a thought experiment, and the use is to help extract our values and see what we care about.
yeah.
So this whole like it just seemed. I don't know if this is your attention, but this whole point of like, Danny, stop trying to find a way to exploit animals or something. Like it's just like that's not what's happening, dude. And then he says, defend them. It's like, dude, look at my YouTube channel. Look at my content online. Like I am doing that. So this is where the weird gatekeeping / like competition shit comes in. That I don't know if it's intentional on his part, but it's like it is cringe. I'm sorry. Like the amount of shit that I've done, and then I get this kind of shit because I said picking up a feather is cool. I don't know, bro. Like.
I tell you what, when we empty all the cages and it's totally weird to use feathers, then you could talk to me about using them for art because you found them. Thank you.
When it's
Wait, why?
What?
I don't understand. What?
it's like an appeal to popularity or something. They're like when it's weird, then you can talk to me about it. I don't know.
What's the? Well, I don't understand the point of saying that. I don't get that.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Vegan on salads. Thank you. I'm sorry about your bad LVL experience. It was like, I don't know, man. It was really bad. Like I kind of.
It's.
I'm
promise
sorry, bro.
you, your
I'm sorry.
experience is only as bad as the bullshit you utter. Sorry, I know you're trying to be more respectful to this guy. You're like, hey, I'm sorry you had a bad experience. Um,
Yeah.
I'm just me and Danny are two separate people, so don't ever think if I'm shitting on you, that doesn't mean that Danny endorses what I say. But what I'm saying is like if you're bringing this up to me, I would probably treat you worse than Danny because I wouldn't see this as a serious position. I'd troll you harder, right? I wouldn't be like disrespectful, but like I would think this is such a non-serious position. I'm gonna non-seriously respond back, right? That's just me. Like,
Yeah. It's like he is serious, and like, you want to take people seriously when they're being serious, but for us it's like the position is so like bonkers that in the moment, especially with what I said, the context of that day and all the messages I was getting, it was hard to. But yeah, it is funny that No Injustice Lasts Forever says sorry for your bad LVL experience. Sounds like I'm like a theme park or something, or like a movie or something. I don't know. Your LVL experience. I hope you guys have had a good LVL experience.
It's like meeting like Beyonce, and you're just like Beyonce is just totally rude to you. You're like, ruined my day.
Right. Piece of shit.
I went in there with an open heart, and I saw someone had already broached the subject. It was Cole Vainamwinian, already broached the subject, asked about welfarism, and I asked, "Are you an abolitionist?" He said yes, and then he proceeded to say a bunch of kind of welfarist talking points, and it bugged me. So I don't know if anybody was there. You could tell I was trying to be respectful, but then he starts going, "Oh yeah, I guess I'm gonna go protest the birds who you."
We're just repeating ourselves now.
Cat bird to make nests, then, huh? It's like such a carny. Like you're just a carny who like has talked yourself into veganism somehow. You're
he doesn't know he's been trolled so bad.
Yeah.
It's just holy shit, dude. Like, like, come on.
Basically cosmic septic at that point. You've talked yourself into utilitarian ideas through utilitarianism and like effective altruism and all the other kind of Kantianism.
What does it have to do with utilitarianism? It's just like,
why are you Kantian? You're literally bringing up different normative theories that are like vastly different. What are you doing?
Right. Also, like it could be a deontic thing. Like I don't think that grabbing a feather is like a rights violation. I think that's like it's not necessarily a utilitarian thing. But anyway, whatever. It's like he's viewing me as someone who's like utilitarian my way into thinking it's okay to like support happy farms and then murder animals at like 1/4 their lifespan. When I'm literally just saying like, bro, there's a fucking feather on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like, oh, these are a bunch of like fucking carnist talking points when like you only gave your position on like one proposition, and he's like making all of these sort of like he's like assuming all this bullshit, just your response to one thing. Like it's like, whoa, still. Maybe ask him why he thinks that.
He's like, he barely gets that just one of those philosophies doesn't work. You end up being like Peter Singer, who just ends up going, I'm a utilitarian and that's what I am. Right. Well, it's insufficient. It's an insufficient tool by which to navigate. It's an insufficient compass because it's all.
Hunter Kirby says, "Oh, go ahead."
To what?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
If he was just saying, Hunter said, if he was just saying, yeah, we have differing views on this, that's one thing. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it too. Like, but he goes, yeah, calling me a carnist for picking up a feather is okay, right?
I don't know if he was calling you a carnist, but he was saying Danny was using carnist talking points.
Well, he said you're a carny who talked himself into veganism.
Oh, that's what he said? Never mind. I retract what I said.
Yeah.
God damn. Yeah, that is local. That's local.
It's always going to point a different direction that doesn't really help where you're trying to go. In a vegan world, we would do better than fossil fuels that involved animal exploitation. Thank you, Vegan Han. That's kind of my point. Yeah, I'm not even saying that everyone who has a feather needs to go and throw away the feather. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying in that thought experiment, you're walking in a forest and you see a feather, leave the feather. That's all I'm saying. Why? Because I'm an abolitionist.
Dude.
Okay.
I'm sorry, bro. Like I can't take this. Like I'm trying to be nice, but like that seems like sarcasm to me. Like I'm just being completely honest. Like before you respond, Ruxer, just listen to that forest
I
thing one more
know,
time.
I know. Go
Listen to
ahead,
the
go
forest thing one more time.
Just saying, in that thought experiment, you're walking in a forest and you see a feather, leave the feather. That's all I'm saying. Why? Because I'm an abolitionist.
Like, what are we missing here, dude? Like, I'm an abolitionist, which presumably means I wish for animals to be abolished from slavery, and this is not right.
Mhm.
Therefore, if you see a feather on the jungle, don't touch it.
Yeah, that's a to me. In order to think that like that's the entailment of the position requires some mental gymnastics.
How are you enslaving an animal or violating the principle of like we should abolish animal enslavement by grabbing a feather in a jungle?
Suffering, cruelty, all that stuff. I grab a feather,
Yeah,
right?
that's
Presumably, the feather belongs to a bird, to which the bird does not give a fuck about. Doesn't didn't even notice that it dropped the feather, right? Doesn't care. How is that
anti-abolition. Yeah.
anti-abolition? Jesus Christ. How was that anti-abolition? How was that inconsistent with abolition? I want to know. I want to know.
Are feathers like sentient or something? Like, do we just not know something that he
No.
knows? Like, honest, like the only way I can consider this like something reasonable is like the feathers are sentient or something.
It's like, what if you just pick it up, bro, and you don't even use it? You just have it in your hand. Like, you just. I have a feather in my
It's
hand.
also weird because he said if you have a feather, I'm not telling you to put it down. Like what? Like, but don't you have an issue with people using it? So if people have it and they're using it, do you still want them to put it down? Like, I don't.
Yeah, presumably you want to tell them to put it down because they
Yeah.
shouldn't be using it, right?
Yeah. So I don't know.
Because I'm an extremist. I am always against using animals 100% of the time.
I don't view.
That's crazy. That is crazy. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, there's two layers there. So number one, a feather is not an animal. So when you see a feather on the sidewalk, like, and you grab it, or a jungle, you're using the feather if you're going to use the feather, not an animal. Second, he just said 100% of the time, which means like, yeah, if you had to use an animal to save infinite animals from being tortured, you would not do it. But I don't think he sincerely believes that. I think he was just being emotional and he's exaggerating and he's being passionate right now. I
I
don't
think
think
if
he
he thinks
sincerely
about it
believes
a
it.
little bit, he'll change. He'll change it. He'll
Right.
probably restate what he meant.
Right. Right.
And I have to sometimes check myself too because I'm raised and I live in a speciesist society. I have to navigate it too. But as a vegan, whatever the heck I'm doing here on YouTube, as a vegan claims maker or whatever.
Oh, I don't know. I just feel bad.
What do you feel? Hold on. What do you feel bad about exactly? What's going on in your head?
I feel like this is a person who has all the good intentions. He's not a bad dude. I don't, even though he imitated my voice to sound like I was not the brightest. I think he has good intentions. I think he's flustered and he's upset with me for the way I approached him and reacted. And fair enough, that's fine. But I feel bad for him because he's stressing over something that to me is so like not. It's just so trivial, and in the grand scheme of what we care about as activists, like we're on the same page. And you need not be this distraught over a disagreement like this.
Journey.
That's how I feel. So because of that, I just feel bad for him. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess I do. I do feel bad because like you remember there was this whole big thing about slave utilitarianism.
Yeah.
Where it's like you're morally obligated to raise utility, which means in every moment of your waking day you have to do something to raise overall net utility.
Yeah.
It's like, to me, he's like a slave to like this concept.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it feels like. It's like he thinks that there is a bunch of like implications from this like vegan principle that he has, that like he just has to sort of adopt. I mean, he even described his position as extreme. Like,
Yeah.
like there's even like there's like this level of awareness. It's like, yeah, my position's extreme, meaning it's like it's out of the ordinary, or like, you know, I don't know. Typically, like extreme, there's like a negative connotation to it when someone has an extreme
Yeah.
position.
Yeah.
So it's like there's like this awareness for it, but he's just like, yeah, I'm an abolitionist, and it seems like he thinks this is what's entailed by abolitionism, and he just has to be committed to it, like he's a slave to this concept.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's what goes on in my head right now.
Yeah, and I think it's causing him a lot of unnecessary stress, at least in this video. It's like, dude, why don't you come to the it's cool to touch a feather on the sidewalk side and you'll be a lot less stressed out. That's what I think. But anyway.
Let's put it this way. As an abolitionist, I would never go out and tell people, yeah, well, if you find a feather, go ahead and use it. Why would I?
Where's the contradiction there? Like he's acting like those two actions are in direct conflict.
Yeah, it's like you wouldn't say it, right? But
yeah, I'm not telling people to go. Hey guys, go fucking use every feather you find on the sidewalk.
No, unless it's relevant for you to say. You're just not going out and saying it, right? But that's different. That's different than saying that like it's a bad thing when someone does that.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I say that I'm against animal use. I'm not against animal abuse.
A feather is not an animal.
I'm not against small cages. I'm against animal use, utilization, exploitation, whatever synonym you'd like to use. Jordan, thank you so much. You are saying facts. Thank you so much. I don't think it's that hard. Turning vegan.
Yeah, but the thing is, you're not saying facts. Like, how are you utilizing the animal? How are you using the animal?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how? I understand. Like how are we exploiting the animal? Because presumably exploitation requires some type of like you doing something to a sentient being, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that can be exploited.
This bird is probably just flying, chilling, drinking some water, eating whatever whatever birds eat. Mm-hmm. They don't even know, like their feather is just like miles away. It could be even for some birds, it could be like 50 miles away, depending on how long after they drop the feather you find the feather. And they've kept flying, whatever.
Hell, this dude. Let's make this even weirder, right? Like, you know how like there's some like reptiles, or even some mammal like birds as well. They'll either shed or they'll shed skin or whatever because it's healthy for them to do so, mm-hmm. right? So they don't want it because it's unhealthy, mm-hmm. right? So like, it's like just like it's like this is actually bad for them. They literally like ejected this from their body because it's healthier for them to do that. Like, and I can't just pick it up and just use it for something else.
Mm-hmm.
When it's literally this thing is like something that they refuse to like keep with them.
Yeah,
I don't get it. I don't get that.
I feel like it's just like a appropriation or approximation of like what your values are or why you went vegan in the first place. You just don't. It's like you're almost like missing the point. I don't know.
Feels like
that's how it feels. I don't know.
Thinking about this, thank you, Turning Veganese. AJ was the one who kind of pointed out some stuff about LVL, and I was just like,
yeah, he's a legend.
Like, damn it! I thought more. I haven't been like I don't follow him that much. So when I heard Turning Veganese's thing and I watched his video, I was like, damn, I didn't know that. I didn't know he was like that. So then I went to his live stream today, and it was. Rough, man.
I'm sorry I disappointed you, bro. In fact, although I hold the position that it's cool to grab the feather, I won't grab a feather if I ever see. I mean, I see one all the time at this park I go to, but I will just for you. I'll be thinking about you, and I will not grab it.
Man, yeah. I think
I grabbed them at a spite.
I don't know, but he just seems like distressed over that. Like I feel bad. It's like, dude. I wish I can like rearrange your like
your
mind.
Brain chemistry.
Yeah, your brain chemistry so that you're not stressed over this, but he is.
It's like this thing that just obviously does not have an issue. There's like no issue here.
How long have you been vegan? How long have I been vegan? 19-ish years, 18, 19 years. So I know that, and on the show today, no, LVL, while I was so I got kind of like, what the heck, LVL? So I watched the thing that he had made about about the lady who killed herself. He's talking about the lady who killed herself, and he says like, well, I've been vegan for 8 years. And I'm like, well, maybe, but you know what? There are people who have been vegan for 1 year who understand. So I don't know. It's a horrible thing to think about it like that. It's not.
Okay. Just some clarity for you, Ruxer, because I know you're confused. I made a video saying I've been vegan for 8 years, and I'm perfectly healthy, because people were talking about that raw vegan that like allegedly killed herself due to starvation.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So now he just heard me say that I'm vegan for 8 years, and he's using that as a rhetorical talking point to be like, well, there's people that have been vegan for 1 year that get this point that using a feather on the sidewalk is wrong. I think that's what he's going for here. Yeah, it's working.
That's so toxic. That's a toxic vegan in me thinking.
Okay, at least he recognizes that.
That because I've been vegan longer than somebody, I have a better understanding. That's not fair.
Dude,
fuck off. I don't want anything to do with you. Don't ever speak to me again. You're a fucking piece of shit.
even vegans don't get your weird, stupid wannabe sense of irony here. Who is your audience? Nobody gets these dumb jokes. Dude,